Have you ever brushed off a little discomfort in your chest, thinking it's just indigestion, or maybe you're just tired from a busy day? I know I've been there, shrugging off those small aches and pains, especially as we get older and our bodies start to feel a bit different. But here's the thing, ladies, sometimes those subtle signs of your body try and tell you something serious. For women over 60, heart attacks don't always show up like they do in the movies, with dramatic chest clutching and collapsing. They can be quiet, sneaky, and easy to miss, especially for us. That's why I'm so glad you're here today, because we're going to talk about something that could save your life. The silent heart attack symptoms women over 60 always miss. I'm going to walk you through 5 key signs you absolutely shouldn't ignore, because knowing them can make all the difference. Heart disease is the #1 cause of death for women, and after 60, our risk goes up. The tricky part? Our symptoms don't always scream heart attack the way they might for men. They can be vague, easy to dismiss as stress, aging, or just one of those days. But ignoring these signs could mean missing a chance to act early and protect your health. In this video, we'll go over 5 symptoms that might seem harmless, but could be your heart waving a red flag. These are things you can pay attention to starting today, and I'll share some simple ways to take action if you notice them. Let's dive into the first sign, because it's one that catches so many of us off guard. The first sign to watch for is unusual fatigue. Now, I know what you're thinking. Are we all a little tired sometimes? Maybe you're juggling grandkids, keeping up with chores, or just feeling the weight of a long week. But this isn't your usual, I need a nap kind of tired. This is a deep, heavy exhaustion that feels like it's come out of nowhere. You might feel like you can't get through your usual routine, like walking to the mailbox or climbing the stairs leaves you winded in a way it never used to. I remember my friend Susan, who's 62, telling me she started feeling so drained she could barely get through her morning coffee without wanting to lie down. She thought it was just aging or maybe a bad night's sleep, but it turned out her heart was struggling to keep up. That kind of fatigue is your body saying it's working harder than it should to pump blood. If you're feeling this way more often than not, don't just chalk it up to getting older. Make a note of when it happens, how long it lasts, and what you were doing. It's worth talking to your doctor about, especially if it's paired with any other symptoms we'll cover. Now, let's move on to the second sign, discomfort that doesn't feel like typical chest pain. When we think of a heart attack, we often picture someone clutching their chest in agony. But for women, it's not always that obvious. You might feel a strange pressure, tightness, or even a burning sensation in your chest that you mistake for heartburn or indigestion. It might not even stay in your chest. It could spread to your shoulders, neck, jaw, or even your back. My neighbor Linda, who's 65, told me she kept feeling this odd, heavy feeling in her upper back, like she pulled a muscle. She ignored it for weeks, thinking it was from gardening, until her doctor pointed out it could be related to her heart. This kind of discomfort might come and go, or it might linger for a few minutes and then fade. The key is to pay attention to anything that feels unusual, especially if it happens when you're active or stressed. Try keeping a small journal to track these moments. It can really help when you talk to your doctor. So, we've covered unusual fatigue and discomfort that's not quite chest pain, but there's another sneaky symptom that's easy to overlook, and it's something we often blame on something else entirely. Let's keep going and talk about what that third sign is, because it's one that can slip under the radar if you're not paying close attention. Let's keep the conversation going about those silent heart attack symptoms that women over 60 often miss. We're diving into the third sign now, and it's one that's so easy to brush off because it feels like something we deal with all the time: shortness of breath. You know that feeling when you're climbing a few stairs or hurrying to answer phone, and suddenly you're huffing and puffing more than you expect? It's tempting to think, oh, I'm just out of shape, or it's just part of getting older. But if you're finding it hard to catch your breath even during light activities, like walking to the kitchen or doing some light housework, that's a sign worth noticing. This happened to my cousin Margaret, who's 67. She'd get winded just watering her plants, and she laughed it off, saying she needed to get back to her yoga class. But when she mentioned to her doctor, they ran some tests and found her heart wasn't pumping as efficiently as it should. Shortness of breath can happen because your heart isn't getting enough oxygen to keep up with what your body needs. If this is happening to you, especially if it's new or getting worse. Don't ignore it. Try taking a moment when it happens to sit down, breathe slowly, and see if it passes. If it keeps coming back, it's time to have a chat with your doctor, jotting down when it happens, and what you are doing can give them a clearer picture. Now, let's talk about the fourth sign, which is another one that can sneak up on you: nausea or stomach discomfort. This one's tricky because it's so easy to blame on something you ate or maybe a touch of a stomach bug. But for women, especially after 60, feeling queasy, having an upset stomach, or even feeling like you might vomit can be a warning sign of a heart issue. It's not always the dramatic chest pain we expect. I remember hearing about my friend Carol, who's 64, who kept feeling this weird, unsettled feeling in her stomach after meals. She thought it was her acid reflux acting up and popped antacids for weeks. But when she started feeling clammy and lightheaded along with it, her daughter insisted she see a doctor. Sure enough, it was her heart sending out a signal. This kind of nausea might feel like it's coming from nowhere, or it might hit when you're exerting yourself, like carrying groceries or even during a stressful moment. If you notice it happening alongside any of the other signs we talked about, like that fatigue or chest discomfort, it's a clue to take seriously. Keep a glass of water handy and try to stay calm if it happens. But don't hesitate to reach out to your healthcare provider if it's persistent or paired with other symptoms. What makes these signs so tricky is how ordinary they can seem. We're used to feeling a little off sometimes, right? Maybe it's a busy day, or we didn't sleep well, or we ate something that didn't agree with us. But when these symptoms start showing up together, or more often than usual, that's when your body is trying to get your attention. The good news is, paying attention to these signs doesn't mean you have to live in fear. It's about empowering yourself to know your body and act quickly. If you're keeping a little notebook to track these moments, like when you feel short of breath or unusually queasy, it can make all the difference when you talk to your doctor. They'll appreciate the details, and it could help them catch something early. There's one more sign we need to talk about, and it's one that's so easy to dismiss because it feels like it could be anything. Let's dive into that last one next because it's a biggie, and I want you to be ready to spot it. We're at the final stretch of our conversation about the silent heart attack symptoms women over 60 often miss. And I'm so glad you stuck with me. We've already talked about some sneaky signs like unusual fatigue, discomfort that's not quite chest pain, shortness of breath, and nausea. Now let's dive into the fifth sign, one that's so easy to wave off because it feels like it could be caused by a million other things. Feeling lightheaded or dizzy. You know that moment when you stand up too fast and the room spins a little? Or maybe you're just sitting there and suddenly you feel a bit woozy, like you need to grab onto something to steady yourself. It's tempting to blame it on skipping lunch or not drinking enough water. But for women over 60, this can sometimes be a sign your heart isn't pumping blood as effectively as it should. My friend Diane, who's 66, started noticing these spells of dizziness when she was out walking her dog. She thought maybe she was dehydrated or her blood pressure was acting up, but it kept happening, especially when she was active. When she finally mentioned it to her doctor, they found her heart was struggling to keep up with her body's demands. If you're feeling lightheaded or dizzy, especially if it's happening alongside any of the other signs we've talked about, don't just shrug it off. Try sitting down, sipping some water, and taking slow, deep breaths to see if it passes. If it's happening more often or feels intense, it's time to check in with your doctor. Now, let's take a moment to bring this all together. These 5 signs: unusual fatigue, discomfort that's not typical chest pain, shortness of breath, nausea or stomach discomfort, and lightheadedness, can seem so ordinary, can't they? We've all had days where we feel a little off, and it's so easy to think it's just aging or stress or something we ate. But here's the truth. Your body is always talking to you, and after 60, it's more important than ever to listen. These symptoms don't always mean a heart attack, but they're like little whispers from your heart saying, "Hey, something might need attention." The good news is that paying attention doesn't have to be scary. It's about knowing your body and giving yourself a chance to catch things early. If you notice any of these signs popping up more than usual, try keeping track of them in a little notebook. Write down what you felt when it happened and what you were doing. That way, when you talk to your doctor, you've got a clear picture to share. And don't wait too long to make that call. Trust me, your peace of mind is worth it. I want you to feel empowered, not worried. Small steps, like being aware of these signs and acting on them, can make a huge difference in your health and happiness. You deserve to live your days feeling strong and vibrant, whether you're playing with your grandkids, tending to your garden, or just enjoying a quiet cup of coffee. So, what's been your experience? Have you ever noticed any of these symptoms and wonder what they meant? Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear from you, and I bet other women watching would too. If you found this helpful, give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more tips to keep you feeling your best. Here's to listening to our bodies and living our best lives at any age.